Hey guys, it's Danny back with another video. Today I would like to kind of give you a rundown of my story, why I'm doing the channel. So I'm doing this channel to basically help other domestic violence victims, rape survivors, survivors of any kind, elderly abuse, anything. When I was younger, my grandma and grandpa not took custody of me, but they took care of me. My mom worked a lot at first, and then she kind of went down a path with dating guys that were not the greatest, that would abuse her. And they would drink, both of them, and do whatever they would do. So for a long time, all I really knew was my grandma and grandpa being my parents. Then when my grandpa passed away, let me backtrack a little. Before my grandpa passed away, we moved to Wisconsin. Things got a little better. My mom wasn't dating all these guys. She was home. If she wasn't home, she was working. Fast track. I think we were living there for 2 years, and he passed away. When he passed away, things got bad again. My mom started drinking. My grandma was working full-time at Land's End, so that left me home with my mom. She was drinking. She would leave to go by friends. She would leave to go with different guys. And a lot of my family doesn't know this because they were out here in Chicago. And my grandma never really wanted people to know. So after my grandpa died, when my mom was seeing different guys and drinking, and maybe there was drug use, I don't know. She's never admitted to that. She's admitted to the drinking. So again, my grandma was working at Land's End, and my mom met a guy, and she was in love with him. But the thing is, he was married and had, I think, like 3 or 4 daughters. In fact, a new baby with his wife. And my mom knew that. And she really loved this guy. And this guy said he was gonna leave his wife and kids and take care of my mom, and wanted my mom to run away with him and leave me with my grandma. And of course, my mom was in love with him. So, packed up her things one night. My grandma came home from Land's End, and my mom had told us that she was leaving. I was heartbroken. Even through the abuse that happened, me and my mom never got along. There was one time my grandma found my mom cornered me in the bathroom beating the crap out of me. I'm not gonna sit here, and I'm not saying this to down my mom, because I love my mom. No matter what, everybody has issues. No matter what, everybody's made mistakes. I've made mistakes. My point in telling you guys this is so that you can see it happens. It doesn't matter what the situation is. I had a grandma and grandpa that loved me. I had aunts and uncles out here that didn't even know what was going on. I had my mom that was, I do believe deep down she loved me, But I also believe that the love for these guys that claimed to love her overrode the love that she had for me and made her do stupid things. Come on, guys. Tell me one person that hasn't done something stupid because of love. Now, I'm not saying that means to abuse your child and leave your child. But my mom was also, I'm not gonna say she's slow, but my mom was also, I don't know how to explain it, guys. She worked, but I think a lot of times when she was drinking, she didn't really know what to do and stuff. So anyways, the night she was gonna leave, the night she was gonna leave, I remember begging and pleading, "Mom, don't leave. Please don't leave me." She turned around and she told my grandma, "Don't worry, I'll send money." That's still something I struggle with all the time. And again, I love my mom, and I wouldn't trade her for the world. We've all made mistakes. When I heard her tell my grandma that, I knew she was leaving. I knew it was for real. She went that night, met him at a hotel. He ended up beating the crap out of her and going back to his wife. Here's another thing that plays into it: mental health. My mom's had a lot of mental health issues in her life: depression, anxiety. So when that night happened, she came home after what happened. When I say she came home, but she didn't come home. She came home, but my mom didn't come home. She went into her room and wouldn't talk to me or my grandma for weeks. Wouldn't look at me, blamed me. There were times that me and my mom got into fights, and she said a lot of hurtful things to me, and I'm sure I said hurtful things to her. I was hurt that I've always wanted my mom to love me, and sometimes people go through their own abuse, whether it be with family, domestic violence, and then they in turn treat their kid wrongly. Again, I'm not saying she was a bad person, and I've talked to her. We go to counseling and we try to work things out. I'm not bashing her. She actually said she would come on YouTube and do an interview. And maybe one day you guys could hear her side of things. I know when my grandpa died, I think she was hurt so bad, and she was so angry that when she had me, they took over and they showed all their attention to me and not her. Maybe that's what caused some of this. I don't know. I'll never know the real reason. Only her and God know. And that's okay, because I know my mom loves me, and I know she tries. I know she gets angry, and she doesn't know how to express her anger sometimes. So going through that with my mom was not the only abuse I went through. My mom had a boyfriend, and he had a son. One night, my mom took me over to the boyfriend's house, and they wanted to get rid of the kids. Mind you, I was still young. I was just turning 14, and he was 18. So he was responsible for me and his younger sister, but the younger sister was like 16. So it was me 14, her 16, and him 18. We were all 2 years apart. We had gone to the rec center that night, the town rec center in Reedsburg, because the adults wanted the kids out of the house. I don't blame my mom, because she trusted this 18-year-old to make sure I was okay in his care. His sister ran off with some friends, and I was left with him. Wow. I haven't really talked about this. I haven't really told my whole story before, so sorry guys. We were in the car, and he parked behind the building, where it was dark, and there were no cars back there. Now mind you, his windows were tinted. I was in the back seat. He parked the car, turned it off, jumped in the back seat, and assaulted me. And it went on for what feels like forever, but I think it was about an hour. I went home that night, and I called my best friend, and I told her what had happened, and I told her I didn't know what to do. Sorry guys, that's my neighbors in the back. I didn't know what to do. So she told me to tell my mom and have my mom take me to the hospital. I told my mom that night, and I think she was so angry that she didn't want to believe it. And we were not supposed to leave the house. My grandma had told my mom that night that we were not supposed to leave the house. That was a school night, and I was supposed to be at home doing homework, and my mom was supposed to be at home watching me. I don't blame her at all. I blame myself. And I know you're not supposed to, but I do. I blame myself. When I told my mom, I think she was so hurt and so confused and didn't know what to do. She told me not to tell my grandma. She made me promise her I wouldn't tell my grandma because she was afraid she'd get in trouble. I kept that secret for as long as I could, until I spiraled out of control. At the age of 14, I went into the hospital after this incident for what they thought was an ovarian cyst. And then they realized it was more than just an ovarian cyst. I had some damage done. I was told I would never have kids, that it would be almost impossible. They gave me a prescription for oxycodone for the pain. And I legitimately used it for the pain. But then I went back because I was in pain again. And they gave me more. By the third round of pills, I was on it for a month and a half. By the third round, I was using it for pain, but I was also using it because when I took that pill, I was numb to everything else. I regret it. Because that started a very bad cycle. So, I got expelled from school. Before I got expelled from school, from high school, I got sent to a mental institute. Let's backtrack. Okay. The first time I was ever in a mental institute, I was about, trying to think, it was right after my grandpa died and the abuse started to get bad. And I took my mom's prescription pills for her depression. And I took a lot of them and tried killing myself because I wanted to be with my grandpa. I was tired of the abuse. I loved my mom, I loved my grandma, but I was tired of feeling like my mom hated me, like my mom blamed me. So that was the first time. So I had to be about, trying to think, that was, my grandpa died, I was in first grade. So I was about 6. So it was about 7 or 8 when it was about a year or 2 after he died. I think so. I think I got those right. Yeah. It was 2 years after he died, so 6, 7. So yeah, about 7 or 8 I was. So that was the first time. But this second time was when I was sexually assaulted. And Like I said, I started those pills and things just spiraled out of control. And I ended up taking a bunch of pills, oxycodones. I took about 20 of them. I cut my wrists and I laid in the bathtub. My grandma found me. I remember going to Reedsburg Hospital. And I remember them saying that they were committing me to the mental institute. And them telling me it was the second time. Sorry guys, that's my neighbor's dog. When I went for the second time, they told me if I go back a third time, I would be a ward of the state. So at that time I felt like, okay, I need to swallow my pride. I need to knock it off. I need to get help. Because if they feel like I need to be a ward of the state, that means I'll never see my grandma again. So I got help. I stopped the drug use for a couple months. I was clean. When I got busted, somebody set me up and put drugs in my locker. When I got into a fight, I was expelled from school. I had to beg and plead the school to come back. Shortly after I had my hearing court date, I was on probation. We decided we were gonna move. So we moved back to Chicago. When I came back to Chicago, I had to transfer my probation. Went to Revis High School. Thought things were good. We were in the apartment. My mom and grandma were fighting a lot. My grandma went on Social Security, and I remember my mom telling her, "Why should I work if you don't have to?" I remember being so angry. So resentful for everything she put us through. So I started retaliating. I started skipping school. The stress of everything got to me. And my diabetes got bad. Now mind you, I still was not on drugs. Had a meeting, got sent to Pride Alternative School. Lost the apartment, moved in with my uncle. They helped us out for a long time till we got back on our feet. Got a trailer, moved to work. Now I'm telling you guys this in detail because you're gonna hear the third abuse. Got the trailer. I was doing good. I was doing so good. I got sick. We were still living at the trailer. I got sick. And they started giving me prescription pills. Now I was legitimately sick. Very sick. On a ventilator, in and out of the hospital. That had nothing to do with drugs. I was not on drugs at that time. Then they started giving me painkillers. And I thought, okay, It's been years. 14, I'm 24 now, 25. No, 25. I thought I could do this. I don't have to worry about becoming addicted. I can do this. I'm getting painkillers for a medical reason. I'll be okay. At one point, my doctor was giving me 280 8-milligram Dilaudid pills a month. Sorry, 180 every 2 weeks, so 360 a month. I was taking over 10 pills a day. Then started to spiral out of control. Now, mind you, I had already been diagnosed with my illness. So this that everybody thought I was faking being sick was not. I started to do drugs after I got sick. My illness caused me to lose my hair, be on ventilators. I was so sick, lost so much weight. And I remember telling God, and this was after I had my son, and I was so happy. I loved him so much. But while I was sick in the hospital, now mind you, the summer before I got sick, I went to a party. No, I didn't do drugs, but I was drinking. And I met a guy named Todd. We talked a couple times. He was a friend of my buddy Dave's. When I was sick, the only one that knows this story is my mom and grandma. And my girlfriend. I was in the hospital and Dave came up to see me. And he texted me, he asked, would you mind if I brought a friend with? I said no. Because I trusted Dave. I've known Dave since I was 17. Dave and Todd left, and they went out drinking. Now, mind you, I never gave this guy Todd any reason to think I liked him sexually or anything. And he came back by himself to the hospital. Dave went home because he was drunk. Todd decided he was going to continue to drink. And he came up to the hospital. I let him in because he said he wanted to talk. Said he was having a bad day, he wanted to talk. So I asked the nurse, I said, hey, a friend of mine wants to come up. He needs somebody to talk to. My nurse was so cool. She was like, yeah, no problem, sweetie. He came in, reeked of alcohol. I don't like alcohol as it is because I've seen my mom a lot of times drink to like drown her problems out. And that's when she would get like real mean and stuff with me and say hurtful things. Not even mean, just say hurtful things. He reeked of booze. And night shift, the nurses don't come around that much. He closed the door behind him, sat down. We were talking. Nurse came in. Keyword, she said, this is the last time I'm gonna bother you for another 4 hours, because I had been stable at that point. So they were only doing vitals every 4 hours. He heard the nurse say nobody else was gonna be back for 4 hours. A couple minutes after the nurse left, he started getting loud and saying how much he hated women because they never respect him and he has needs and women don't ever want to take care of his needs. And I could tell. I knew something was gonna happen because he kept raising his voice. The next thing I knew, he was suffocating me. He was on top of me, raping me. And suffocating me, and I hit the nurse call light. And he ripped the call light out of the wall. But on the outside, you could still hear it going off. It took my nurse 10 minutes to come in the room. By that time, he had ripped my IV out of my hand. I had a central line. He ripped that out. There was blood all over. As she was walking in, he was trying to hurry up and zip his pants up. And she yelled out the door, "Help! I need security called." And he took off by the time security responded and called the nurse back. He was out of the house, out of the hospital. Now I'm bleeding everywhere. And I locked myself in the bathroom. And I kept praying. That God would make me bleed to death. Because I didn't want to have to relive it again. Like I did when I was 14. And I remember them trying to get me to come out. And they kept saying, we don't want to have to break the door down. They had to call Oakland police because I was at Christ Hospital. The police came, the detectives came, they did a rape kit. I felt violated all over again during the rape kit. I felt like I was so dirty. And they wouldn't let me take a shower until they had all the evidence collected. Then they had to get my bleeding